Today on Our Region's Business, we begin an occasional series of programs devoted to our region's emerging leadership as a center of energy-related solutions. The industry is no stranger to Greater Pittsburgh. We've been mining coal since the 1760s. The global oil and gas industry was born here. Pittsburghers electrified the world with alternating current, developed commercial nuclear energy, and implemented the first scrubbers for coal-fired power plants, and also, along the way, carved out an early lead in green building. Our manufacturing strengths are even giving us an opportunity as a supply chain provider to the solar and wind industries. Add to that well over $1 billion a year in government, university, and corporate energy-related research, and it's easy to see why Greater Pittsburgh's becoming a global powerhouse. One of the biggest economic drivers right now, especially in terms of job growth, is commercial nuclear energy. Westinghouse Electric has emerged as one of the two big global leaders in the industry, and supply chain companies throughout our region are tooling up and beginning to hire to meet projected demand. Today we're going to focus on emerging careers and supply chain opportunities. But first, the nuclear renaissance and what it means to our region. Jim Ferland is president of the Americas region for Westinghouse Electric. And welcome. Welcome home, too. I know you're a Westinghouse guy who's come back.
I am happy to be here.
Yeah, well, it is, I guess, an exciting time for the industry.
It really is. It's a great time for the industry. For years, we concentrated on running the power plants that were already built, running them very, very well, and the industry has done a great job with that. Commercial nuclear power runs at a very high capacity factor, and it runs very, very safely. And today, we're shifting into a second mode. We're focused an awful lot on new construction around the world and in the States. So big change, lots of opportunity, and a big impact on the Pittsburgh region as well.
I want to ask you about that, yeah, because, I mean, for Westinghouse itself, obviously, and especially for the impact you're having here, it's meant a growth phase in recent years that's been something remarkable to watch.
You know, it really has, and enjoyable to participate in as well. Just to give you a feel on the impact here in Pittsburgh, we have hired more than 5,000 people in the last few years. And awful lot of those right here in Western PA. So awful lot of fun to be in the industry today. Great opportunity for folks to come into the industry with experience, and for many, many college students coming out of college to hire into what is now a growing, emerging industry.
Well, I know a lot of people, I'm sure, are assuming that you're looking for nuclear physicists and nuclear engineers, but I would assume it takes a lot of different skill sets to build a brand new nuclear power plant.
It really does. If there are any nuclear physicists out there, we're obviously interested in that. But you're exactly right. We hire far more civil, mechanical, electrical engineers than we do with people with purely nuclear backgrounds. An awful lot of business folks, awful lot of accounting folks, communications. So really it takes all sorts of skills to get these power plants designed and then to get them constructed.
And speaking of construction, I guess what the markets are like, a lot of attention been paid to China. It sounded like all the action really is in China. Great for Pittsburgh. We're not going to turn away the business. But are we beginning to see activity in the United States at all?
You know, we really are. An awful lot of things driving the various utilities of the United States start looking again at constructing nuclear power plants. Load continues to grow. And all of us have heard about CO2 and impending CO2 legislation, and that it changes the energy generation picture. An awful lot more folks looking at building nuclear power plants, which look a little bit more favorable today relative to investing in a coal plant, for example, where there's an awful lot of uncertainty about exactly what regulations are going to be in place for coal. Well, for nuclear, we know. Nuclear power plants generate a lot of electricity with no CO2 emissions. So simply for that reason, an awful lot of utilities are looking at building power plants. And for years it was the we're thinking about it phase, and that transition has now happened. As you know, Westinghouse is constructing 4 brand new AP1000s in China. What folks don't know, and seems to be a bit of a surprise to folks, is that we are constructing 4 brand new power plants in the United States today, 2 in Georgia and 2 in South Carolina. So, and I was down there just in the last week or so. There's dirt moving, there are construction workers on site, and I'll tell you, it's just an awful lot of fun to be in that kind of an environment again.
Well, when you're looking at an industry whose entire supply chain had withered over 30 years, with no new orders, what's that going to mean to not just to those of you who are, engineering the plants, but to everybody who participates in building one?
Well, it has a huge impact. The Westinghouse's expertise is in designing the power plant, and we'd still do some manufacturing, but the majority of the work that goes into these multi-billion-dollar projects comes from the outside, and it comes from a variety of suppliers, small and large. Companies manufacturing small valves and small sections of pipe to companies that can manufacture giant pieces of equipment. Big impact on construction labor. Need an awful lot of folks on site to construct these power plants, but we also need an awful lot of folks local to do the piece-by-piece construction. These power plants are being built in a very different fashion than they were 20 years ago. Rather than having everybody assemble on site and build these power plants piece by piece, we're instead building them in what we call a modular fashion. So we're having different sub-suppliers put together their individual pieces, ship them to the site as a unit. We put the units together, and then we bring in entire modules and put them into the power plant. It allows for faster construction, less expensive construction, and an awful lot of the work, rather than being done on site, is done in various locations around the country.
Wow. Only a little bit of time left, but do you have the supplier base that you need to meet the potential demand you think you're going to see?
Well, for right now, we're building 4 in China and 4 in the United States. So the suppliers are ramping up. We've had a lot of interest, an awful lot of folks that are trying to get into the business, and a lot of folks that were in the business in the past that are trying to re-enter. So the suppliers seem to be able to handle the load today. The view is that this new nuclear build is going to accelerate going forward. If that is the case, and I personally think it is, we will need a great increase in the supplier network in order to be able to meet that sort of demand.
Wow. Well, great to see it happening right here in our region, the birthplace, of course, of commercial nuclear energy.
Absolutely.
All right, Jim Ferland from Westinghouse, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.